17th. Councillor DiCiano will move that. And let's do a review of...
All those in favor?
All those in favor, yes. Opposed, that's carried. BU, we'll go through the agenda. BU 34.1, Capital Variance Report for the 6-month period ending June 30th, 2017. Any questions? Anyone? Councillor Mahavik will move that.
If you move approval as you go through, or you just say
Move approval. So if you want to hold it, we can hold it.
No.
If not, we can approve it right now.
move approve? Move
Okay.
approval?
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.2, I will hold. I have a small amendment that I want to put to that. BU 34.3, Reserves and Reserve Funds Variance Report, June 30th, 2017. Councilor Mahavik moves approval. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.4, the 2016 Development Charge Reserve Fund Statement. Councillor Mahavik's on a roll here. We will move approval. BU 34.4, all in favor. Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.5, Capital Budget Reallocation Request, Toronto Fire Services Data Architecture and Data Integration Modernization Strategy. Any questions on that?
Move approval. I'm going
Councillor
to add
Mahavik.
efficiency to this meeting.
Seeing no other hands, I will actually take Councillor Mahavik's motion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.6, actually, I have a small amendment. I don't need to hold it. It's just technical in nature. Okay, I do have questions on that. Okay. Councillor Campbell's holding that. BU 34.7, Adjustments and Deferrals, Accelerations to the Parks, Forestry and Recreation 2017 Capital Budget and 2018 to 26 Capital Plan. Councillor Campbell will move that. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.8, Toronto Water 2017 Capital Budget and 2018 to 26 Capital Plan Adjustments. Councillor Nunziata will move the recommendations. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.9, Adjustments to the 2017-26 Capital Budget and Plan for Transportation Services, the King Liberty Pedestrian Bridge. Questions? Councillor Mahavik will move. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.10, Transportation Services 2017 Capital Budget Adjustments.
Approval.
Councillor Nunziata will move that. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. BU 34.11, Facilities 2017 Capital Budget and 2018 to 26 Capital Plan Adjustments and Accelerations Deferrals. Councillor Nunziata will move that. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. BU 34.12, Toronto Public Library 2017 Capital Budget Adjustments. Councillor Mahavik, you have the honors.
Approval, yes.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. By the way, Councillor Mahavik, this is not normally we will ask a lot more questions, so don't think that every time you come here we're going to have a very quick meeting. As we get into budget season, you'll notice there'll be many more questions coming in. But okay, we'll go back to BU 34.2, Operating Variance Report for the 6-month period. I had no questions. I just had an amendment. If anybody there's any questions, first of all. Seeing no questions, then I will move. And we'll get it up on the screen. This is a very small amendment that City Council increased the 2017 operating budget for social development and finance and administration by $50,000 funded from a one-time draw from the Tax Stabilization Reserve to be used to fund a youth space enhancement program to target high-risk youth at the Don Montgomery Community Center. This was originally supposed to, the CFO was going to be putting this in the report, and it was a little bit late, so I was moving it on his behalf in the Mayor's office. This was from the Mayor's office, so I was moving that on their behalf. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Item as amended. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We'll go to BU 34.6, the Tree Protection Enforcement. Councillor Campbell, you had some questions?
Question for, I guess, Mr. Doyle and his staff.
Can I
Just in terms of the workload, you first requested the 6 temporary positions from, I guess it was January to July. Is that not when most of the work is done and required? Do you have a breakdown, or do you do a, sort of like a breakdown of work by month? Because you're asking now for the back end 6 months of the year. And I understand that the response time has been reduced considerably. I think you're down to, 7 days or something like that. And, most of the calls are getting answered. But wouldn't the back half of the year have a considerably lighter workload?
Through you, Speaker. Actually, in the report, we identify that the demand for the requests for non-compliance is high. It hasn't decreased. So the calls that are coming in have not decreased. So non-compliance is still at the rate it's always been. There was a spike from 2011 to 2016 of 71% in non-compliance. So the funding we had was insufficient. It hasn't decreased. What has increased is our compliance rate, our response rate.
So I get that, but isn't this a seasonal phenomenon that is not typically, a high rate of occurrence in the months of November, December, January, February? I mean, there's not as much construction going on. There's not as many people coming looking to cut trees.
Through the chair to the councillor, that's not correct. So what's happened here is construction is year round. So hoarding is put up, and it could be in place for 2 years. That hoarding, if there's a breakdown in the hoarding or the permit, the definitions around how the permit was issued, so the compliance requirements, that could break down at any point in time. What happens is the neighbors, example is they put a construction material in the restricted zone. That has to come out. Wintertime comes along, snow gets in the way, compliance breaks down even more. So what we're finding is that if I drop the 6 positions, we'll go back to where we were with non-compliance, being able to respond to the conditions that the permits were issued.
So not that I'm asking for this information, but do you have the level and the number of complaints tracked on a monthly basis? I just wonder if that's something you do.
Through the chair, we do track the complaints. We have a projected number of complaints that we're anticipating around 1,800 for 2018. Okay. We've tracked them through our TMS system on how many that are coming in. So yes, we do have the number, and that's how we're projecting the staff and the resources moving forward. Through the 2018 budget process, we'll be requesting these go permanent to maintain those service levels. It is, again, full cost recovery. There's no cost associated with this. The compliance fees cover the cost of the employees.
So, and the report obviously was written, I think, originally to request the permanency of those employees going forward. And it says that you're looking to achieve a 72-hour average response time. And I'm wondering, why is that necessary? That seems quicker than is necessary to me.
Through the chair, so when a permit is issued, it's conditioned on certain requirements. If there's a breakdown in those requirements, the neighbors around are impacted, but specifically the tree itself. Soil compaction around a tree, you're running out of time. If you put a big load of soil up and there's compacting those soils, it's restricting the oxygen levels. It has significant impacts on the tree. Sometimes construction damage takes 4 years to recognize the impact it's had on the tree. So the science behind it suggests that we need to respond in an adequate amount of time. Otherwise, the whole purpose of the private tree bylaw, the street tree bylaw, is redundant if you can't enforce the requirements set to protect the health of the tree.
Okay, no more questions, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor DiCiano next.
Thank you. Where are these positions being added, in which districts?
Through the chair to the councillor, it's across the board. It's citywide.
Okay. And item number 2 says to refer the creation of these permanent positions to the 2018 operating budget. But the extension is 8 months, so that goes through the budget process for 2018. How would we know to consider whether or not to make this permanent if we don't see the outcome of what the 8 months looks like?
Through the chair to the council.
What is the point of making it temporary? We're obviously going to be measuring something or looking at something and analyzing that, is that correct? If not, why are they just not being made full-time now?
So through the chair to the councillor, the initial project was to collect that data and project what we required going forward. We do require the positions going forward to maintain those service levels and adhere to the protection of the forest canopy. The recommendation is for council to consider it through the 2018 budget process. That's why we're asking for the extension, which will give us into February before the budget is passed. If council, through its wisdom, suggests that the resources aren't required, then we'll set the service standards accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Nunziata, questions?
Okay, so these positions, exactly what is their job description? What do they do? What are they going to be doing? Are they going to be responding to requests as well from people bringing in requests to community council on removing trees? Is that part of the inspection, or is that just for development, new development?
Through the chair to the councillor, this is a proactive approach. What happens is it's simply to enforce conditions that permits were granted. What we found, and council spoke loudly through the 2017 budget process, that there was a significant lack of resources to respond to inadequate protections put around trees in their local neighborhoods. The spike in permit applications was increased by 71%, so we identified these staff to go out and do proactive enforcement street by street to look at breakdown and hoarding, issue stop work orders, and ask for compliance. If there's failed to comply, we issue remedial work and add it to their tax. Again, it's full cost recovery, and that's all they'll be doing.
Okay, so when an application goes forward to a committee of adjustment and it's approved on condition, right? So there's inspections on that particular application ongoing as the development process happens?
Through the
Like,
chair.
do we continue doing, because I've had, there's been some cases where there were conditions put on an application and the applicant did not meet those conditions and there was no enforcement. So is this what these positions would be doing?
Through the chair to the speaker, yes, this is what those positions will be doing. And we'll be able to respond within 72 hours to enforce compliance of those conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Any other questions? Seeing none, speakers to the item? Councillor Carroll.
Yeah, I'm very much in support of this item, and I'm pretty confident of its chances when it gets to executive in the North District. I don't know about the other districts as well, but in the North District, it's been newsworthy how under-resourced we are in terms of making sure that conditions are met, and also that when we arrive and give a warning or give new conditions to be met before a stop work order can be lifted, there aren't enough resources to go back and do that follow-up. And Councillor Robinson, who sits on executive, is the superstar problem area of this, because she has so many large committee of adjustment areas as well as you know, large site developments where conditions aren't being met. And while we really do have a great system for explaining what needs to be done, and developers do seem to understand what needs to be done, it's those you know, single unit, you know, let's say at monster home areas where it's really only a single family dwelling site, but our staff need to spend so much time with someone who has just decided they're going to be non-compliant from the get-go. And it's the follow-up and the multiple trips that we need to be demonstrating to the residents across the street, and we just can't do it without the staff resources. So I know that if we adopt this and forward it on to executive, Councillor Robinson and some others, particularly in the North District, and I dare say the other districts will understand the need for the resources for us to be able to actually keep people compliant with our policies. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other speakers to the item? I have just a quick technical amendment, I guess, to add to number 2 is I just want to add as underlined to the Budget Committee to ensure that this comes to the Budget Committee as part of the 2018 budget process. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? That's carried. Item as amended. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And that's it. Motion to adjourn. It's always in order. And the 2 members can get over to the TTC now. You're welcome.